And when you turn on protections on your smartphone to prevent apps and, more importantly, companies from tracking you or finding out other information about you, you would expect that that would be accepted and followed, right? Well, it seems Meta is one of those companies, possibly a number of companies, that may have been ignoring your decision. Brand and digital strategist Fisher, who could be found on X, Threads, and Instagram with username at Fisher, and through his website, fisher.media, joins us now with the details. Good morning, Fisher.
Good morning, Ken.
So you use all these protections on your phone. You think you're fine. The big tech companies are going to ignore you. You know, if you say you don't want your data being shared, et cetera. So what was going on with Meta?
So, a former Meta product manager claims that Meta bypassed Apple's app tracking transparency privacy protections that were introduced in iOS 14 back in 2021. The alleged bypassing was intended to mitigate an estimated $10 billion revenue loss due to Apple's restrictions. Now, you might remember this, and more if you're a tech geek like myself. Apple said that they were going to default asking to track to off. So by default, you are not allowing apps to ask you even, right? So you can't even turn it off if you wanted to. It's automatically off. So Apple's policy requires apps to obtain explicit user permission for tracking. And again, it was by default turned off. So Meta could not even ask for permission. You'd have to go into your privacy and settings, privacy and security settings on your phone and turn it on if you wanted to. Meta is also accused of inflating advertising performance metrics, misleading advertisers about ad effectiveness. Now, the product manager also claims he was fired by Meta for repeatedly flagging these issues, though Meta denies it and says that his dismissal was for unrelated reasons. The allegations were filed in a United Kingdom employment tribunal, highlighting a potential year-long pattern of deception by Meta. Meta allegedly used, and this is important because the problem isn't necessarily that they went around. That is because by default, you're saying, I don't want you to track my comings and goings on websites and apps and things of that sort. Meta used deterministic matching to link user data across platforms, even when denied consent, violating Apple's policies. Now, the way that they do this is not easy, but your phone has a device ID, your watch has a device ID, your browser has a browser ID. We talked about this a couple of months ago. Some information like what Wi-Fi you're connected to, how much battery life is left on your phone, what type of operating system you have, iOS 16. Do you have the iPhone 15 Pro that's 15 inch screen size? All of these data points are fed on the back end to a data collection area, and apps and websites can identify you by those pieces. So if I'm always connecting to On New Jersey's guest Wi-Fi, and then I come home and I'm connecting to my Wi-Fi, those are two data points. Now it'll know the type of that I have an iPhone, all of that. So Meta used these different data points to put the information together to know that I was me, even though I explicitly said, don't track me across these devices. But this is what apps do all the time. They use your email address. We've talked about this, and I've stressed, try not to use your email address across all data points, meaning your banking information, Delta Airlines, SkyMiles login, Marriott, Hertz, whatever it is, however you travel, whatever you do, because all of this can be tracked. And Meta just went around Apple's, standardization of not requesting the data and used it, and then continued to match all the data behind the scenes as they do.
Fascinating. It's just amazing. And we just take things for granted. You just assume a big, reputable company like that, that wouldn't happen. We also assume that a big, reputable company like that would not have employees who would slant politics and block certain sites, et cetera. But we've been told otherwise, right? So it is what it is. It is a private company. 841 and driverless taxis are coming to a
Hmm.
city near us, like maybe New
Yes,
York. And what should we
possibly.
know and expect with the next Uber ride?
So, as of now, Waymo, which is Alphabet, Google's autonomous vehicle subsidiary, received their first permit from New York City's Department of Transportation to test self-driving in the city. So, testing has begun already using 8 Jaguar I-Pace SUVs in Manhattan. So, if you're in Manhattan or downtown Brooklyn, through the end of September, you will see those cars. They're the white cars with the lights and the spinny things on the roof. Now, by the permit, a trained safety operator, a driver, must remain in the driver's seat with at least one hand on the wheel at all times, as required by New York state law. They are not currently picking up passengers during this testing phase. They are seeing how it interacts with traffic and pedestrians and construction and all the things that make New York and all of our cities what they are. So it still requires a separate license from the city's TLC, Taxi and Limousine Commission. The company must regularly meet with the New York City Department of Transportation to ensure compliance and safety. Now, what this means eventually is, as it is rolling out in different cities, Phoenix, Austin, Atlanta, Georgia, is that eventually when you request an Uber, you may get a car with no driver, nobody in it. Now, again, there's a lot of testing, but it is all part of launching a robo-taxi service in New York City, which would be Waymo's most challenging urban environment to date. Obviously, New York is its own thing, right? If you can make it there, you can make it anywhere. So I guess that's what Waymo and Alphabet is hoping, that they can successfully roll out in New York City. Now, I can tell you from what I see around town here in Atlanta, there are some issues. there are some
Hmm.
issues with the car just randomly stopping. Things of that sort. No, smacking into walls and things of that. But because of the way that Waymo navigates, it does cause some issues because the thinking on the fly, if you will, is not there yet compared to, say, a Tesla robotaxi.
I love it. Well, I was laughing. I don't know if you saw my image there, laughing when you said that for now, as they test, the driver has to be in the driver's seat and have at least one hand on the wheel.
So they're
The last
driving,
10
right?
times I've last 10 times I've taken car services in Manhattan, they haven't had one hand on the wheel as it is. They
That
use
is
their
fair.
knees and their what gets me too is there is a law. I guarantee most people don't know this. I only know this from having been an anchor in New York for 150 years. There is a law that says it's TLC commission law in New York City. You cannot be on a cell phone if you're a driver,
Hmm.
even with hands free. Yet,
Hmm.
as God is my judge and witness, I have not been in a cab or an Uber or a Lyft in New York in 20 years where when you get in the car, they're not
Yep. Have
talking on
their
the phone.
earpiece in. Absolutely.
Right. Now, granted, it's hands free, but the law says you can't be on the phone, period. And I don't want to be rude because this guy's at the wheel, but yet that is the law. They don't
Yep.
follow it and it doesn't get enforced. So I'd be willing to see if this gets enforced. Well, I would think in the beginning it will, then we'll
Well,
see what happens.
so I think that the way that this works with the cars is the same way I think my car, and I'm sure your car, that you have the lane, to keep within the lane.
Right.
You can remove your hand, and then eventually the car will tell you that you need to put your hand on the wheel
Right.
again. So they probably have sensors, and then also because of the level of this autonomous driving, it's being reported back. So at least in this part, and again, they're not picking up passengers; they're just doing the mapping, the scoping,
Yes.
the testing.
Right.
So that's the important part too, is that everything is being reported back compared to my Ford is not reporting back to Ford whether or not I had my hand on the wheel as I was going down the road and ignored it when it beeped or whatever. That I'm not saying I do that. I'm just saying as an example. But everything with this testing will be reported back. So I'm sure the requirements there are a lot higher, and also they're Google employees, so they're a little more than a typical just driver in the car.
Gotcha. Well, I'm sure they'll be very careful in the beginning. We'll see what happens. All right. Brandon, digital strategist Fisher, who can be found on X, Threads, and Instagram with the username at Fisher and through his website, fisher.media. Thank you for joining us this morning, Fisher.
Thanks, Ken.
You bet.